watched a lot of coverage of the conflict between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. I find it very interesting that I don't see anyone really talking about this particular point regarding the evacuation of the civilians from the north to the south. So Israel has ordered an evacuation of the people in the north to go to the south. They have amassed, I think, 300,000 troops on the border. It looks like they're going to be attacking northern Gaza Strip. They're blocking all medicine supplies, electricity. I think they ran out of fuel, a few days ago. But here's the thing: I don't hear anyone talking about. It just seems like it's a pink elephant in the room to me. What is the logic behind this evacuation to the south? What are the true intentions of the attack on northern Gaza? If we are to take the Israelis at their word, they're not interested in attacking civilians. They're interested in attacking Hamas. They're interested in attacking and destroying terrorists. Terrorists that would rape women, kidnap elderly people, babies, use human shields. Those type of people. If we're to take Israel at their word, these are their true targets, the Hamas terrorists. But if that's the case, how do they accomplish that? How do they attack the terrorists by having people evacuate to the south? Logically, you would think the Hamas terrorists would move to the south with the civilians. Why on earth would Hamas terrorists stay in northern Gaza Strip and wait to be absolutely decimated by the far superior Israeli force? Why would they do that? Logically, Hamas will very likely travel south with the civilians. So, who then are the Israelis attacking and bombing in northern Gaza after the evacuation? So, after everyone's gone to the south, and let's clarify the everyone. There's going to be civilians left behind. There's going to be a lot of poverty, a lot of devastation. A lot of people don't have vehicles. The hospitals are shutting down. So there's going to be some severely injured people, sick and elderly, who could not travel, who will remain in the northern Gaza, right? The Hamas folks, young and healthy men who can move and run and have access to supplies and equipment, they'll be able to move very easily to the south. I would expect better than most of the civilians. Who can't move so readily will be the most vulnerable in the Gaza Strip. So, that being the case, Hamas has evacuated to the south. Uh, Overwhelming majority of civilians have evacuated to the south. And who remains the most vulnerable of all? And then Israel's going to bomb this area with the weakest of the weak. Is that like what are the intentions behind that? Might there be some really super crazy radical Hamas that are going to stay there and mount a defense against the entire Israeli? I don't. I mean, obviously these guys are a little bit wacky, for sure. That's an understatement. But I just don't see them. And I know they talk about they love death, right? They love death like we love life. But I don't know, man. I just don't see them. And maybe that's the angle. Maybe they're thinking that these guys are gonna be crazy enough. I mean, you're gonna evacuate 1.1 million people on the uh, idea that they're gonna do this holy war and I don't know, man. So that makes me wonder, what are the true intentions? And the things that I come up with are very, very scary. If you evacuate 1.1 million people to the south and Hamas goes down there with them, if if that is your expectation, and you tell everyone you're going to bomb in the north. What if you instead bomb in the south? You could much more efficiently not only devastate Hamas, um, but many future people who might become or even think about becoming a member of such an organization, right? You concentrate your forces and your weapons and your bombs in half the area instead of attacking the entire Gaza Strip. You focus on a much smaller area, which means it's going to take you less bombs. It's just going to be much more efficient. Round them all up down to the south, and then devastate them there. And you can easily pull this off because you said one thing, you did something else. So you started your attack in the north, and then there was another attack in the south, supposedly. Right, little evidence of it. Where they some people crossed the border and attacked more civilians. So Hamas again did another attack. So that forced the military to now move their forces down to the south to address Hamas, because apparently Hamas moved down with the civilians. Like, who would have known? Like, we didn't expect them to do that, but that's where they are. So we obviously had to move our troops down there, and then they were attacking more civilians. So we went, and unfortunately, a lot of civilians got killed, but that's where the target was, and that's where we have to defend ourselves. We have to defend ourselves, right? So then you go and you do this absolutely devastating attack, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians, women, men, children. Is that what the outcome is? Is that the true intentions of the Israelis? Because what they're saying doesn't make sense to me. And in fact, that no one's talking about this is bizarre as well. That all these people talking about this and this and that, and oh, you're supporting terrorists, and Israel must, whatever. No one's talking about this evacuation in terms of what's the logic of this. What is the logic? How is this supposed to play out? And in any scenario, what's the end result? How does this end? Right? What's the final chapter? What's the season finale of this? What's really going on? I want to know what you think is going on. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. There's another potential strategy that they might be using that would be a little bit more humane. And that is, let's think through this logically. I would guess the focus on northern Gaza Strip indicates that they see a lot of activity there regarding Hamas, theoretically. And Hamas, one of the big threats of Hamas is the weapons that they have, right? These missiles or rockets that they use to launch, and other weaponry, right? So not just them are a threat, but the weapons that they have. Them without their weapons, less of a threat. Them with their weapons, more of a threat. So can we separate them from their weapons? If they decide to move down south with the civilians, how would they bring their weapons with them? I think the Israelis have the capacity to monitor the evacuation to the south, and I think they're going to be paying particular attention to people that are moving with a bunch of large items in tow. I think they already have a good idea of where Hamas strongholds might be, probably focusing on those areas as well. So seeing those particular areas, and you're seeing a bunch of trucks and stuff being loaded up and satellite imagery. So I think if I were Hamas, it would be extremely problematic for me to be able, for us, if I'm Hamas, to be able to carry our weapons with us down to the south without revealing ourselves. I don't know how you pull it off. I have to look at how this migration looks, because obviously people would probably want to carry as much things with them as possible. So are the amount of things that the average person is carrying enough that it would be a similar profile to what you would have if you're carrying weapons? Let's say you have I don't know how many Hamas uh, people they have, but let's say every guy carries with them 10 missiles or something. I don't know how you break this up. Um, could you hide it in something that's no bigger than what typical civilians have when they're carrying their belongings? So that to me seems to be a real serious challenge. And the result of that might be separating Hamas from a lot of their weaponry. So you have them move to the south. They can only really carry their guns. They can't really carry the big, serious stuff. So that stuff gets left behind. Israel comes in and searches for these weapons, searches through these strongholds, destroys the weapons or captures them, whatever. I don't know what the next move is, but that would be the perhaps most humane explanation for this evacuation order. But I really am disappointed that more people aren't discussing, the strange, sort of evacuation order in terms of what does this really mean? Like, what is Israel really up to? It seems that people are just taking their word as face value. Like, okay, we're gonna evacuate to the south and then attack the north. Like no one's ever heard of the idea of, government lying in a wartime scenario as a tactic to trick their enemies. Maybe we do know what they're up to, right? And since they're our good buddies, we're keeping it secret. Anyway, it's the Baby Channel, the Baby comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.